What if I told you there was a way that you could naturally attract more money into your life, where you could literally spot and see more opportunities to make more money? You can come up with new ideas to make more money. You can show up, act, and be in a way to make more money. And lastly, you can feel more rich in your life than ever without even changing a thing in your life. That is exactly what we're going to break down here today, guys, is how to build an identity that naturally attracts more money. So the first thing that we want to dive into today is what is identity? Because once we can understand that there's actually I guess you would say, a system in how people function in reality. Here's what I mean. I'm going to show you. So let's say you've got results right here. Okay. Everybody wants a certain result. Now you can replace that result with you want love, you want money, you want that business succeed, you want to not feel like you're just surviving, getting by on bills, whatever it may be. Everyone has a certain result, specifically when it comes to wanting to make more money, attract more money. There's a certain result that you want in your life. Well, how do we get the results in our lives? We get results from taking action. The only way to produce results is from actions. Now, what influences our actions? Well, what we know is that our identity influences our actions because identity is what drives your natural behaviors. Identity is what drives your natural motivators. Identity is what drives your actions, your decisions, your focus, all of it. Identity is who you believe you are. And how the brain works is that whatever you believe to be true, your brain then must follow as instructions. So if you have an identity as somebody who is a Christian or religious, for example, naturally your behaviors unravel from that. Naturally, you're going to go to church. Naturally, you will read the Bible, probably. Naturally, you will follow the way of God. That is your identity. That's who you believe you are. And then you go and recreate that in your personal reality over and over and over and over again. So identity is what drives actions. Now, what creates identity? What creates identity is thought and emotion. So when you think and feel a certain amount, a certain way over and over again, that's actually what forms identity. Neurons that fire together will end up wiring together. Now, another way to put this too, though, is that the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So the more and more that you think about something, like I am a rich person, I am a rich person, or I am poor, bad things always happen to me, I always have bad luck, I always go through this stuff in my life, I always struggle. The more and more that we think about something like that, you ever have a thought before where eventually you start to feel it? Or maybe you had a past situation that brought you a lot of stress, maybe even trauma. And when you bring yourself back to that moment, you actually start to feel the emotion of it. That stress, you start to feel yourself panicking a little bit, breathing, your chest gets a little heavy. The reason why is because you're actually experiencing that in real time. When you think and feel that, your body reacts to that. You genuinely experience that situation again. Your body goes through it again. So the more and more that we think about something and we feel it, emotion is a huge piece to it, and we genuinely feel it, the more and more we do that, we start to believe in it. So a lot of us, who we are today, our identity, who we think we are, is actually a creation of our past programming. Our consistent past programming formed eventually this sense of self, who you think you are, and that's been recreated, repeated in reality over and over and over again, over and over and over again. I would almost bet that a lot of people still see themselves in the same way that they saw themselves in high school, in college, in middle school. Many similarities. So identities create through thought and emotion. Where do thoughts come from? Where do emotions come from? Many of us think that thoughts are just who we actually are. The thoughts that I have is me, right? You ever have a thought like, maybe I'm not so good at doing this, or I suck, or I'm not good at math, or I'm not smart with money, or I suck with money, or I can never make more money, or money is evil, money's hard to make. You ever have a thought like that, but you don't question the thought, you immediately believe in the thought, you immediately buy into it, you identify with that thought, you personalize it? Even some of the things that I was just saying there, you might be reflecting on saying, oh, I do have those thoughts, but I never even thought about the idea that it might not actually be me. It might just be a thought and not real. So that's the tricky part is a lot of us, we identify deeply with our thoughts. So we think we are our thoughts. And a little side story, that is the ego. Now I have explanations on my other trainings about that, but that is the ego because the ego is always trying to get you to identify with thought because as soon as you identify with thought, you collapse into that identity, that old identity. You collapse back into that. You buy into the program we'll set. So your thoughts are not you because you're the one behind them all, observing it all, right? Because not every thought that you have is the full truth. You are the one behind all the thought. Thoughts are just random, they're just coming into your mind, but it's not you, it's not the whole you, right? You're the one who's behind it all, listening, hearing, seeing, having the thought come in. That's you. So I'll get to where thoughts come from in a second, but the next thing is emotion. Where does emotion come from? Growing up for me, when I didn't understand myself, and that's why I'm so passionate about the work I do, and I didn't understand, why I'd feel certain emotions or always feel so down on myself or hard on myself or all these different things. Now I understand, and understanding this makes how I deal with my emotions now 100 times easier and better. Because if you're watching this training, like I'm sure you've definitely had times in your life where your emotions influenced how you showed up, how you acted, and just overall your emotion, your overall mental well-being as well, right? An event happens, you get sad over it, you struggle, and it beats you down, really slows down the things that you want. So emotions are never actually random, though. Emotions are not ever random. So that's the first like aha moment that feels awesome because if you ever constantly feel sad or upset or struggle with your emotions, now you know that they're actually a signal, they're a messenger. They're not random. They're not randomly happening. So how you'd experience an emotion is you must have an interpretation. You must interpret something. So what I mean by that is let's say an event happens or a thought happens, right? Because remember, your brain doesn't know the difference between reality or imagination. So let's say an event happens or a thought happens. Once that happens, you have an interpretation of that event. And that interpretation then influences the emotion that you feel from it. So the same event could happen, but two people can interpret the same or in a different way and feel completely differently about it moving forwards. So, where does interpretation come from? Our perception on things, our perspective, how we assign meaning to things, because reality itself is neutral. So, where we assign meaning to things, where does that come from? How do we interpret things? And also, where do our thoughts come from? Well, they come from the same place. They come from the same place. That's your belief system. Your belief system is the root of it all. And this is all going to connect here soon if you're serious about building an identity that naturally attracts more money. So, our belief system runs the entire show. So, if you want to attract more money into your life, we need a new identity. And the only way to get a new identity is to change our belief system. So, that is the first rundown on why, or how, I guess you could say, how that by changing that identity, by changing the identity, we can naturally make more money, we can attract more money. Here's an example before we move on. Let's say you take two people. So you have two people, and the goal is to lose 30 pounds. One of the people have an identity of an athlete. Okay. The other person has an identity of someone who is, we'll say, overweight. Okay. And they have the habits of someone who's overweight. They naturally take action similar to somebody who's overweight. Okay. Their behaviors, decisions, eating patterns, all of that connect to the identity. And then the athlete is the other person, the other identity. And they both have a goal to lose 30 pounds. Who is going to lose 30 pounds faster? The person with the identity of somebody who is overweight or the person with the identity of somebody who is an athlete? The athlete is going to get there in record timing. And when they get there, when they get to this result, what are they going to do? They're going to reconfirm who they already believe they are, an athlete. And the overweight person is maybe they might get there, but even if they do, I mean, 90% statistically, 90% of the time, they're going to revert back and gain that weight back to the same old identity. And the reason why is because, again, identity drives your action, your focus, your decisions. Identity must reconfirm itself in reality. It's its job. Think of your identity as this is your safe zone. So, like a thermostat, right? So, let's say you have a thermostat and it's set at 70 degrees and it rises to 90 degrees. Now, when you think about your body and how you function, think of it like this, okay? My identity is at 70 degrees. I'm right now accomplishing more and more and more success in my life. I'm handling more money and making more money, but my belief systems, my identity around money is at this certain level here below. What happens when you start to make more and you start to do more, the thermostat rises to 90, is that it becomes unsafe. It becomes unsafe because that now new reality, those new results is unpredictable. It's not common. It's not comfortable. It's not safe. So what happens then is that your nervous system, your body, and even your brain, you literally start to reject it. You start to reject it and throw it away. And this is what I call identity mismatch. Okay, this is kind of the pattern. So there's one, two, three, four steps to this. And let's say this down here is your baseline. So this is your identity baseline. Let's say your identity baseline is 10,000 per month, just for an example. Okay. And maybe for you it's 2K per month, maybe it's $500 per month, maybe it's $50,000 per month, whatever it may be. Let's say for example it's 10K per month. What's going to happen eventually is like there's something inside you, and that's why you're here today, that's pushing you to want to go make more, to attract more money in your life. And eventually, this push, this inner push, is going to motivate you to take different sets of actions, okay? Decisions. And with those new actions is going to come new results. So maybe you're showing up more, you're putting in more work hours, you're doing more, and you're starting to get more results. What happens once you start to get more results is this. Is an identity mismatch. And the reason why is because this is the identity baseline. This is what's safe underneath this level. But you up here in this section, this is unsafe. This is the no-go zone. This is not predictable, and your brain is a prediction machine. It's always trying to predict reality. It wants you to be safe and secure. That's why we live 95% of our lives in our subconscious mind, where it's almost on autopilot, it's automated, because that is the machine, how we function. So we're just continuously showing up in the same way, thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same way, similar actions. We don't really change too much over time. So that's the identity mismatch is when you do start to change and this anxiety, this fear, this overwhelm starts to pop up. The shakenness starts to pop up. It's uncomfortable. And then what happens for most of us, what happens most of the time, let me choose a different color, is then we fall into self-sabotage. And I believe there's like four ways of self-sabotage, four common ways. But we start to self-sabotage. Maybe for you to slow down. Maybe you overthink decisions. Maybe you lose confidence on sales calls. Maybe you randomly stop posting. Maybe you give up. Whatever it may be, self-sabotage happens. And then the self-sabotage slowly brings us back to the baseline, where you go back to making the same amount of money, experiencing the same financial hardships over and over and over and over again. Why does this happen? It's because you're trying to make changes. The body, the mind does not like change. So it tries to do things to get you to retreat back to the old zone. The things it does, though, are so tricky. They can be so tricky if we don't understand how this all works that we buy into it, we give into it, and we fall back every single time. Things like, for example, believing in the thoughts that you have. Things like letting your emotions control your life and bring you down over and over and over again. Things like crippling self-doubt, anxiety, or lack of self-belief, lack of self-worth that keeps you in a prison that you don't even want to be in. Things like that. That's what drags us down. It's not the fact that you don't have enough resources, time, you're not good enough. Like, that's the common stuff people say on why they can't make money. But guess what? It's like when you think those thoughts, when you say those things, who's that helping at the end of the day? That's helping you stay in the exact place you don't even want to be in. So why continue to think and be that way? Especially now that you know that the way that you perceive and interact and the results that you get in your reality is a direct reflection of your core belief systems. So yeah, of course, if you believe you're poor, if you believe that money's hard to make, if you believe that you're not good enough, if you believe that it's not possible to get out of poverty, to make more money, to whatever it may be, of course you're experiencing that. Of course, you're experiencing that over and over again. Of course, that is the results that you're getting in your life. Your brain's just doing its job, which is trying to reconfirm what you already believe to be true. So you might be in a crappy situation right now that you don't prefer, and maybe that's because of your past. Maybe that's the family that you were brought up into. But guess what? You also got with that family that you're brought up into is the same programming as them. You get the same programming, or maybe society programmed you in a certain way, or your culture, your environment programmed you in a certain way. And that's the reality that you're living in. But that doesn't mean it's going to be permanent, and it has to be permanent. And it doesn't mean that's always the way it is. And also remember that it's not full truth. Truth of the capital T. It's true to you personally, but it's not full truth. I bet you know other people who have been in your situation or worse but have gotten out and made something incredible for themselves, a major success. There's many people like that. I think his name is E.T. I don't want to get his Eric something. Unbelievable motivational speaker, E.T. He made that very famous speech about the your person drowning in water. About he talked to this guy talked to a guru and he said, if you want to be successful, meet me at 4 in the morning. And they walk out on the beach and he dumps his head underwater and he's almost drowning. Then he lets him back up. And he said, when you want it as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. When he shared that story, E.T. Thomas or E.T. something, um, I listen to that like every day coming up, building my first business, staying consistent, showing up. Anyways, where I was going with that is that if you believe in something, okay, if you genuinely believe in something, because ET, where I was going with that is ET started out with nothing. He was, I'm pretty sure, homeless, and now he's a multi millionaire. Started from the worst of the worst. He started from the complete bottom and built himself into something amazing. So that's evidence right now that it can be done. But remember, the ego, it wants to protect identity. So it's going to send you thoughts and doubt and all these negative feelings, and it's going to fight for you to be a victim. It's going to fight for you to stay stuck. And what we have to realize here today is that you're the one behind that mask. You're the one behind it all who's observing it all. What's happening though is that we keep reacting and jumping and getting stuck in that same old identity over and over and over and over again. And that's why we get the same results and we struggle the same with money. It's just the program that's playing out. So if you want to change that, okay, if you want to change that, it starts within. And the first step is awareness. Awareness to what is, realizing that, hey, this is actually how I've been thinking and functioning. Like, it feels so uncomfortable, but like this, I notice that is my identity of a poor person, of somebody who can't have it all, or somebody who's not worthy or deserving, or somebody who only makes this much money, or believing that money's evil or money's bad, or all these disempowering things around money and success. I realize that that is a part of my programming now. That's the first step. And now, so I just want to do a quick recap before we keep moving on here, guys. So far, we're talking about to build an identity that naturally attracts more money is we broke down what identity actually is. So we're understanding what is identity, how does it function, how is it? We talked about the core root, which is your belief systems. We talked about how the brain works when predicting reality and recreating things. We talked about the identity examples. Okay, we talked about the identity mismatch, finding your patterns. So I think you're clear now on how identity runs the show. So now let's dive into some ways that we can catch our limiting money identity, our blocks. So the first thing that you can do is you can have awareness around your patterns. So you can literally draw out. So we'll say one, find your pattern. So you can draw out and fill in the blank if you'd like. And the first thing is who I believe I am right now. So your identity. Identity baseline. If you don't know what your identity baseline, it is basically your current results or who you think you are, who you think you are, slash how. So maybe right now that is like money equals evil. My identity baseline, I feel or I think that money's evil, that money equals hard to make. That I make right now, let's say 10K per month. Okay. And then find the patterns. So when you get angry, when you get upset with yourself and you want to change your life and you start to act and show up a different way, get clear on what that is, your actions. And then start to write down also the results. So maybe you start to make a little bit more money. Maybe opportunities to make more money is popping up in your life. Maybe you're breaking a plateau in your business temporarily, booking more sales calls. Results are speeding up. And then the identity mismatch. What is it that you feel before you self-sabotage? So before you start to self-sabotage and go backwards, what is usually happening at this time? After you get over this high of doing better, getting more success, more progress, what happens before you start to slow down? Is it anxiety? Is it negative thoughts? Do you start to literally slow down? What happens with the identity mismatch? Okay, what I mean by this is think of, okay, this is how I should act or continue to act and be, but I'm starting to do this differently. I'm starting to show up this way, and that's not aligned. Get clear on that. Then number four is self-sabotage. What are your patterns when you self-sabotage? So you slow down, you overthink, etc. That's the first thing that you can do is you can identify the pattern. Okay. The second thing that you can do, the second thing is the vision. Okay. We'll call it the vision gap. Okay. What does your goal self look like, act like, feel like? What are they doing? So the results, how they think, how they feel, right? The routine, and then now. Results, routine, actions, think, feel, etc. Then what you want to do is you want to find the gap. What is different? What actions are not aligned? Not aligned as in, how am I acting now that is not as I should be acting is if I was at that goal. And then you can ask same for thoughts, how you feel. So maybe, maybe it's poor. I feel fear. And the state that I'm in when I'm feeling at my goal equals abundant. Okay? So get clear on the actions that you're taking right now that's not in alignment with who you want to be, the thoughts, and the feelings overall. That's the second way, the vision gap. So the first way is catch your pattern. Second way is the vision gap. The third way, call this the system. Okay. Actually, I'm going to give you one more as well. I just thought about this, and this is the emotion event. Okay. So the system is basically, and this is what it's all going to tie into at the end, is literally how like the mechanism works. So how the whole entire process works. Here's what I mean. Again, starts with beliefs. Beliefs are the root, produce the thoughts, the emotions, the actions, and the results in your life. So that's the system. So what you can uncover here is, let's say right now the results in your life is I'm poor, okay? And how am I acting or not acting? I am not trying to find new job. I am avoiding sales or calls or doing that task that I know if I did I'd make more money. How do I feel? I feel sad. I feel unmotivated. Okay. How am I thinking? It's not working out. Okay. So you get clear on that. So that way, eventually, we can find this, which I'm going to share with you in a second. The next thing that you can do is the emotion event. I just called that for now. I can definitely come up with a better name later. But the emotion event is basically, let me just move this over. Emotion event is remembering that emotions are not random, right? So you have an event, and then you have the emotion, right? So event, emotion, but in order to experience the emotion, we need to be clear on interpretation. So then you can ask, okay, so you can do this. Write down the emotion that you feel, the event that happened. Maybe you're thinking about something, a situation, you're experiencing something, and then you want to get clear on the interpretation. Ask yourself, how would I have to feel, or how would I have to see this event right now to be feeling this way about it? Or what is the story I'm assigning to this situation? Or what kind of meaning would I have to give this event in order for me to be feeling this way? And basically, what you're getting clear on in every single one of these guys is you're experiencing the emotion. So you're experiencing the emotion. Okay, you're getting clear on the emotion, the meaning. This one, you're getting clear on the pattern. Okay, you're getting clear on how you're acting, or sorry, you're getting clear on how you're acting out of alignment. Okay, and you're acting in this pattern, because remember, you only do patterns. We only do patterns because we believe this is the path of least resistance. We believe this is the best way forwards. So there's a root belief behind this pattern that's causing this to play out. Same again, it's your identity, who you believe you are, it's trying to be recreated almost in a pattern. Number two is the vision gap. This is when you vision who you want to be, how you want to be compared to who you are now. You can find the gap, the difference between it. And in that gap is the identity difference because that gap is made up of different actions, routines, thoughts, feelings, emotional states. So there's an identity conflict there. There's an identity gap. So I want to get clear on the actions that are out of alignment, the thoughts or the feelings, because it's all putting together into the system. And the system is basically as so. Okay. Find that limiting action, pattern, emotion, or thought, and then you find the limiting belief. And as soon as you change the limiting belief, eventually in time, the result changes as well. So if you have an identity right now as somebody who's stuck at a certain income, or somebody who's not worthy of more success, or somebody who, let's say, you're stuck in a pattern or self-sabotage, you spend all your money unconsciously and you don't know it, or you have beliefs that money is super hard to make and stressful to make, and you're always stressed out about money and struggling to make money and working your guts out, that's a system. Because none of those things that I just said are universally true. You can win the lottery tomorrow. That doesn't mean money equals hard to make, right? You scratched off a lotto ticket and you won. That was super easy. Boom, conflicting belief, right? Boom, I realized that that's not actually true. If success meant super hard work, then concrete workers would be the most successful people in the world, right? Financially, if we're talking about financial success, but they're not. Boom. Okay, so that's a limiting belief then. So this is what we're getting at is we're finding the limiting belief behind all of this. This is what's going to change everything with how you attract money into your life and your by changing this identity. So let's say the limiting belief. Okay, so here's how you do it actually. Sorry. Here's how you do it. Let's break it down. Okay. So you've got the system. So the system is, oops, limiting belief, thought, emotion, action, result. So let's say right now I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling sad. Okay. And I asked myself this question. This is how you're going to find out. So you take it, maybe it's your thought, maybe it's the way you're acting. Again, you're thinking, not your thought, but the way you're thinking or the way you're acting, whatever it may be, or you're feeling. You take it and you ask this simple question. You ask, what would I have to believe is true, or it could be the world. What would I have to believe is true about myself or the world to be? What would I have to believe is true about myself, or it could be about the world, depending on the context, the situation, to be feeling this way right now, or to be acting in this way right now, or to be thinking in this way right now? And when you ask that question, the limiting belief pops up to the surface. Okay, so I am feeling upset and sad right now. All right, I'm trying to make more money. I am taking action. Okay, I'm taking action. I'm trying to make more money. I'm feeling really upset and sad right now. Well, what would I have to believe to be true? There's not enough for me. If somebody believed that there's not enough money out there for them, how do you think they'd feel? How do you think they'd think? They're going to think in a way where it's like, well, I never have enough. I'm always tight. Things are hard for me. I'm poor. They're going to feel pretty upset, perhaps feel upset, we should say. They're going to feel poor. They're going to feel, Tight-end it with bills, maybe a little bit of stress. We're going to feel lack, scarcity. How's that going to influence their actions and decisions? Well, if they believe there's not enough for them, they're not going to look for ways to make more money, to maybe get a raise, to sell their products higher for higher amounts, raise their own value, get funding, try to even promote the service, maybe. It's going to influence a lot of their actions. And the results, they're not going to have enough. It's crazy once we can truly grasp this, because this is going to change everything for you. Because as soon as you change your belief system, you start to think differently about yourself. Eventually, you start to feel differently, and then you start to act differently. And as you act differently, you eventually get new results. All right. And as you think and feel, you form, like I've been mentioning, the new identity, new sense of self. So we just went over in part number one an example around that limiting belief. Now, when I say limited, what I mean by that is a belief that you do not prefer to have, a belief that does not align with the goals that you want to accomplish in your life. Therefore, it's limiting you from what you want. That's what I mean by limiting belief. It's capping you down, it's closing you down rather than helping you expand in a positive way. So, again, example, a limiting belief around money would be like there is never enough. A expanded belief around money would be abundance. I am always abundant. And then you have the right definition of abundance, of course. You have more than enough, or you have exactly what you need in every single moment, in every single second. So that is an expansive belief. The other one is a limiting belief, right? When if two people had each of those beliefs, so one of each, so one person A had the positive belief, the other one had the constricting belief, who do you think is going to have a better experience in reality? Who do you think is going to feel more rich in their life, attract more abundant opportunities in their lives? Knowing what we know now about the belief system and how it literally influences the information that you can take in, that you can even see or don't see, that you can absorb and understand, the information all around us, which is crazy to think about because again, the brain is a prediction machine, right? It's always just trying to reconfirm what you already believe to be true in reality over and over and over again. So, knowing what we know now, it's just crazy to think about how by simply changing a belief system, which is pretty easy to do once you understand how it works, but by simply changing your belief system, it's going to cause a massive ripple effect that will change everything else following through as well. That doesn't mean you're going to get exactly the specific thing that you want, by the way. It might be even bigger and better, who knows? But it's going to lead you towards that direction of what you want, which for this workshop is making more money, of course, right? Attracting more money in our lives. So, part two, limiting belief. Here's an example, okay? Let's say the example is we have a belief that it's hard to make money. This is a very common one. Well, that is what's familiar to you. So perhaps you grew up in a family where your parents always fought about money and they always said about how hard it is to make money and money is evil and just it's always so hard to make. Maybe you see your dad or your mom working nonstop all the time. So that's the meaning you gave it. That's how you associate that event is money is hard to make. It's hard to make money. So that's been familiar to your programming your entire life. That's what's been the most secure, safest path, the path of least resistance. So your brain adopts that belief and it will run with it to the point where you genuinely think it's true. It's been your true experience this whole time. But it's not universally true, which means not everybody agrees upon that. It is not a fact. It is not rooted in actual truth. It's just a personal experience, been a personal program, right? Do you think that everyone has that belief that it's hard to make money? Do you think it's been hard for every single person to make money? No, right? Somebody could scratch off a lottery ticket and make a ton of money, and that was the easiest thing to do. So it's a belief system. That's what I'm trying to drive the point here is that that is a belief system, and beliefs can change. So why not change that belief? Because having that belief that money is hard to make is going to make it so making money is hard for you. So example again is you have the belief, Okay, it's influencing your focus, your perspective, the meaning you're giving to your life and your situation, the definitions you assign to things, how you take action, how you think, how you feel. And then now you're just finding, let's say this here is reality. Okay. What you're doing now is you're just finding evidence of hard opportunities to keep making money, just to reconfirm that belief that it's hard to make money. So all we can see is opportunities where it is difficult, it's hard to make that money. There could literally be an easier path right there in front of us, a book away, a conversation away, a thought away, but we can't see it because our RAS will actually block that information out. Just crazy to think about, which is it's super exciting to think about though as well. Because the more we expand our belief system, I mean, the better our reality experience is going to be, the better our results are going to be. So, five money beliefs to rewire today. Five money beliefs that you can rewire today. And again, this is, I work with many, many entrepreneurs, high level people, performers who want to advance their lives, who want to level up. And a lot of the time, they want to make more money. And I mean, that's the main thing for my entrepreneurs. And these are going to be the five beliefs, rooted beliefs that we are programmed with us from our parents, from maybe society, from movies growing up, for example, all different things that were programmed into us to believe that now is we're kind of living life off that program. It's been our personal experience. So number one is money equals stressful. This one really hits home because this, I dealt with this my entire first business. I had a belief that money was stressful, that to make money, it's very stressful. And what I found myself in was a cycle where I'd constantly be stressed out. I'd work extremely hard, very stressed out, neglect all other things, a lot of mostly other all other things, a lot of other passions, and I'd just be stressed out working. I'd get success, I'd feel ease, I'd feel good, and then I would self sabotage somehow and find chaos in my life and go back into stress over and over and over again, and then rushing to make more money, to get it back up, to keep going. And I was in this cycle for years until I found the limiting beliefs behind it. So, a new belief that we could rewire through the process that I just showed you earlier, those four examples, if this is a limiting belief of yours, is money equals flow and freedom. Number two, money is hard to make. Okay, money is hard to make. Again, if that was true, concrete workers would be the billionaires. That's not true. Therefore, it's not the full truth. Money is hard to make. That's not going to serve us. That's kind of disempowering. What's a more empowering belief? Money flows to me. Money is easy to make. Money comes from alignment, whatever it may be. Next, money equals evil. People believing that money is the root of all evil. We've all heard that before. It's not true. Okay. Money just kind of reflects who you already are, amplifies who you already are at the core. So, money, what it actually is, what is it? It's just a tool. It's a form of energy. It's just a tool. Next, because again, another way to think about this too is when it comes to the things that you want to improve in your life, look at it almost like a relationship. When you look at a relationship with an actual person, how do you improve it? You give it time, attention, you focus on it, you pay attention to it, you care about it, you understand, you try to understand it as best as possible. You listen, right? You learn about them. You're involved, you're invested. So the same thing with the money relationship as well. When you change your identity around money, you change how you act with money, you change how you care about money and even fixing and patching the little bad habits that you might have with money, the extra spending, the careless spending, right? The non-budgeting, not tracking expenses and profitability, little things like that that we kind of skimp through as we change our identity with money, all of that stuff naturally changes. You don't need motivation when it's all aligned because you naturally do it. Like the identity around an athlete. I've been working out for about 9, 10 years now, And that is my core identity. I never need motivation really. It just kind of always naturally happens unless I'm not listening to my body and I actually need a rest day and I push through. That's me not listening to me, right? But naturally, I'm just motivated to just always go. It's just my identity. So same thing with money. When we build the right identity around it, we can receive it, we can accept it rather than reject it, push it away, or not even see the opportunities to grow with it. So money takes a lot of time to make. The next one, it's not universally true. Again, you can win the lotto and boom, you get all that money right there. So money comes when I'm aligned, new belief. And then I hate the rich. Rich or evil. No, money amplifies who I already am. How can you want money and hate the rich at the same time? Right? Sounds like a toxic relationship. I love you, but I hate your guts. Toxic relationship. All right, so the changes, okay? Just imagine what's going to happen when you truly commit to this process, when you truly commit to changing your identity, working on your identity, which, by the way, doesn't take much. Doesn't take much to do at all, but you're going to have honest reflection, honest self reflection. But when you do this process, just imagine the changes that are going to happen in your life in the next year, 6 months to come. Because let's say, for example, person number one doesn't do the changes, okay? And they hate money. They believe money's evil. They believe that they're poor, okay? They believe that money is for others and not them. They're always going to be poor. What's the outcome you think they're going to get? And then also, let's say person number two. Person number two has the beliefs of I'm abundant. Things always work out for me. Money is good. Okay, the rich are good. I have a healthy relationship with money. What's their outcome going to be? I'm not a gambler, but I would gamble that person number two is going to be the one who's going to attract way more money and abundance and richness in their lives rather than person number one. Someone with these kind of beliefs, they're going to feel abundant. They're not going to go into fight or flight and always feel stressed out about money and bills, which literally shuts down creative thinking. Okay, they're walking around rich, they're feeling rich, they got a positive attitude. Rich people who could give them an opportunity, they like those kind of people. Nobody likes or wants to really communicate much with somebody who's down, and grumpy or negative or pessimistic view. So you'll even attract better people in your life when you're feeling in a higher and better state. When you believe things always work out for you, when you hit those challenges, they will feel like a lesson that needs to be learned. You'll look at it as, oh, okay, well, this is just part of the journey. Like, I'm already on the right track. I'm figuring it out. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to have more money. I'm an abundant person. I'm a rich person. This challenge is teaching me something. I can learn something in this season. Rather than person number one might give up when that challenge comes around because they might believe that I'm poor, it never works out for me. Money's evil, I can't ever do this. Whatever it may be, the doubt fills the mind. Because if they're making money and that's their beliefs, they're kind of going against themselves. Identity mismatch. So if money is good, rich are good, you might hang around more rich people, be around those things, and your network could change your entire net worth. Healthy relationships with money as well. Again, you will maybe start budgeting naturally, paying attention to where you put your dollars. Maybe when you get that Starbucks, you'll also invest into the company as well, for example. Might start to think about things differently, make different decisions. So I would bet that this person's going to be the one with the outcome of getting more money. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing I want to drive home with you today. If you commit to this process, you will change. Change is guaranteed. Change is guaranteed. Because even the smallest, simplest change is an entire change. It's like what? What's that called? Like the butterfly effect? One smallest shift. So you make all these shifts, things are going to change. Lastly, I want to show you quickly how the belief system really impacts your life. We got your thoughts. We got the information you can see or not see. Your emotions, your natural motivation, your decisions, your identity, focus, behaviors, actions, ego, habits, nervous system, fight or flight, save for threat, the stories and meanings, your perspective, and much more. That's the power of your core belief systems. So, the number one thing that you can take away with today, walk away with today, is adopt the new abundant self right now, today. Adopt the identity right now. You charge it up by entering into that state, which is stepping into the thoughts and feelings of that person. You can do that through meditation, visualization. Once you do this, then you must take action. You can't change without action. You need to act on it. Even if it's uncomfortable, it's okay. Understand that that's just because change is happening. So there's a little battle inside where it's like, hey, this is unfamiliar. This is uncertainty. It doesn't feel safe. Keep acting. Because acting, when you act in alignment with your new identity, that's the fastest way to build evidence on why this is the path to go. On you are actually becoming this person. So act. Act however you can in alignment with that state. So you step into thinking and feeling, then you act from that state. As you take those aligned actions, have awareness around the resistance that pops up in your life. Resistance is anything that feels negative around you trying to get to where you want to go. So if it's making more money, any negative thoughts about your ability to make money, about money itself, about rich people, any negative feelings around your money situation, paying your bills, around anything with money, okay, thoughts, bad habits, patterns, that's where you need to be aware. You want to adopt maybe a habit of self reflection every night or every week. And the faster you practice awareness and catching yourself in the moment is the faster that you can change because you can stop yourself, make a new decision, and you're anchoring in that new identity. You're really rewiring your mind in real time. So catch that resistance that pops up and then rewire the beliefs. So through the process that I share with you, the 4 examples of 4 ways that you can do it, rewire the beliefs that were causing you that resistance in the first place, and then embody that new state, embody that new identity, embody that new state, and stay consistent, and success will be yours. Absolutely. I have no doubt because that's simply just how we function as people. That's how our kind of system, I guess, programming works, should work, has to work. So that is how it's done, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you want one-on-one help, if you are a high performer or an entrepreneur who is already established, you've already been making the progress, but maybe you're stuck right now, you're burnt out, you're unfulfilled, you're unhappy, you're lost, and you can't seem to break through, this is going to be for you. There is limited spots because I only work with my clients one-to-one right now. We don't have a current group program or anything like that. It's just one-to-one with me. So if you want that high level one-to-one help, there's limited spots, but you can apply down below. Thank you so much for watching, guys.